I'm Kat.
And I'm Hayley.
And this is Night Classy, a tipsy night class teaching the oddities and curiosities you never learned in school.
Powered by a thirst for knowledge and some boxed wine, we cover the most fascinating lessons in history, science, true crime, pop culture, the paranormal, and more.
What are we drinking for this learning journey, Hayley?
You made us a fancy little concoction.
I did. I was feeling myself today. We got some Tanqueray gin, a London dry, and sparkling lemonade, and a hibiscus rose like syrup and some lemon juice.
It's so good.
It's really
it's
fucking
summery.
good.
It's fresh. It's fab, it's fit, it's fun.
It is so fab, it's so fit.
Those
so
are
fun.
the only adjectives I know.
Yeah, it's really good. I was just going to get regular gin and tonic stuff. And then I felt inspired by the mixer section.
I'm not a regular gin and tonic. I'm a cool gin and tonic.
Yes, and we do have gin and tonic ingredients for when we run out of this lemonade, so we can keep going.
We can keep the party going.
I'm
like
ready.
We do.
Yeah, it's freaking summer for me. I'm ready to party all night.
Let's not talk about that. I'm not done with school yet, but soon I will join you.
I finally feel vindicated because I started work like a week before you and I was like hating my life. But now the turntables have turned.
Oh, how the turntables. And now I'm acting like I'm freaking, I don't know, like I'm being tortured because you get to stay home and it's not even going to be that bad. I clean out my classroom tomorrow. Well,
Yeah.
just basically load stuff that's already packed up into my car and then hopefully have a nonchalant PD.
Thursday at work, I literally cleaned out my classroom and checked out, and all that was done before 10 a.m. And I like got my sign out sheet done, and I'm like to my principal, I'm like, okay, so I can leave now, right? And he's like, no, it's a work day. You have to stay till 3. So I literally just sat in my empty classroom with no work and just like scrolled around on my phone for like 6 hours.
So stupid.
Yeah, it was crazy.
That makes no sense. Hopefully my principal's like, okay, bye-bye.
Yeah, and like to be fair, like it wasn't my principal's call. Like it's a contract work day, I guess. Like we're following rules around here, but
like I can work better at home than I can in this empty
and
classroom.
also literally we didn't have any work. Like what am I supposed to plan for next year? No, I'm not gonna do that.
We're not even gonna talk about the next school year anymore. That was it.
Yeah, I'm nervous because
You're a nervous.
I'm a nervous because I taught 7th and 8th grade this year, and next year I'm just teaching 7th, and the 6th grade class this year, gotta love them, but they're a little.
You see what's coming down the turnpike, and
they
it's a little scary.
Yeah, they have some extra energy, and I'm wondering if it's just like 6th grade age energy, or if they're going to carry that with them to the 7th grade. But I'm looking forward to it, and also we'll see how it goes.
It's not. It's the class. You know, there are classes that come through, and they're just the classes that the teachers talk about for the rest of time.
It's
Remember
possible.
the class of 22, 23?
It's possible. And I don't want anyone like from school to listen to this and think I'm saying anything negative about children, but they definitely have some extra chaos going on. And I was a 6th grade teacher, and like it's a night and day, like teaching 6th grade versus 7th grade. The 7th graders are so much easier. So I'm really hoping it's just an age thing, but we'll find out.
Okay, enough talk about work. Please.
Okay, thank God. Yeah, I'm freaking done. I've been so bored. Like, I don't know what to do with myself when I'm not working.
You're not spending all of your time at the stable?
I'm going to. I'm probably going to go like every day this week, but today I didn't go. And
Live your best horse girl life. That's what the summer's for. Hot horse summer.
It's going to be a hot horse summer because I don't know what else like to do.
I don't know.
Today I was bored, and I needed ice cube trays, so I just went to Target to get the ice cube trays, and then just walked around Target aimlessly. I didn't buy anything but the ice cube trays.
That's pretty impressive.
It was impressive, but it was like the 3rd time I've been to Target this week, so I'd already bought everything I wanted already.
Check back next week.
Yeah. But like I just had nothing to do, so that's what I did.
You're like, on Mondays I go to Target. On Tuesdays, TJ Maxx. On Wednesdays, Marshalls.
I did go to Nordstrom Rack too because Alec and I are going to a wedding in 2 months, and I need shoes.
Ooh.
And I like never wear heels because I have to be comfortable, but like it's a nice wedding. Like I have to wear heels. And so I'm really struggling to find a pair of cute heels that are also comfortable. So I've just been like checking periodically. I've not had any luck. So if anyone knows where I can get some, like, I want them to be gold, maybe have some like sparkles on them, some jewels if possible. Not necessary, but I do want gold. And they have to be strappy and cute and comfortable. So if anyone has any recommendations,
Oh my God.
let me know.
If I would have known that a week ago, I wouldn't have given away exactly what
Are
you're
you
describing.
freaking kidding me?
We're even now.
No. I know. I gave away her toolkit. I don't think that's my fault. I'm sorry.
I think it was
I'm gonna stand firm on
It's
this.
a miscommunication, I think, on both ends.
Yeah, I went to go clean out we cleaned out our house and cleaned everything 2 days ago. And then I said, leave the cleaning supplies. I'm going to come back the next day and clean. And so I cleaned anything left over because there was a lot of shit left over.
There was so much
There was
shit
so
in
much
that
shit.
house.
I cleaned out like 3 extra garbage bags of shit and just threw them away. And Hayley's
God.
toolkit that she didn't want me to throw away was in
there.
the mix.
I left it because I wanted to make sure all the knobs were like tightened,
Yeah.
and I am extra. So of course in my rental house, I replaced all of the faces for the outlets and things like that. And one of them I couldn't find. So I was like, let me leave this here and I'll get it back tomorrow. Nope.
Sorry, too late.
If that's the reason we don't get our deposit back, they're like, where's this light switch cover?
There's
I'd be like,
absolutely
it was never there.
no way.
was
We're not
never
getting
there.
our deposit back regardless, just because the rental company is bullshit. I don't
Don't
think
say that.
they're not giving us shit.
Well, we shall see.
Yeah.
But I'm also on the hunt for some comfortable shoes for a wedding that I have in October.
Ooh,
so
what kind of
maybe-
shoes do you want to get?
They have to be nude, which is good. I want to be able to wear them because now in this new position I have, I don't have to chase preschoolers around. So I'm open to wearing heels, which I like wearing heels. But again, they have to be comfortable.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for something that with like a chunky heel so that I could wear it to work, not too high,
Yeah.
but also wear it in the wedding. And they have to be open toe strappy as well.
Nordstrom Rack actually had a lot of nude heels, so you should check.
I should check there.
Yeah,
For sure.
They were having a Memorial Day sale, and I don't know what I was going to say, actually.
All right. Well, in that case, do we have any other news or things we need to cover?
I don't think so.
All right. Let's get into it.
We've got some cool Patreon content coming out this week.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Thank you. How
could we
did
forget?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I love recording our Patreon content. I love our normal episodes, but when we do that stuff, it's just out of the routine and it feels so good.
Yeah, it is really fun. We did a list bitch. It was awesome. And then after we record this episode, we're recording another trivia episode.
Who's gonna win?
You won last time, right?
Yep.
Okay, I'm out for
think.
blood. I'm going to get you this time.
You go back and re-listen to all of our past episodes. I can't even
I
do
freaking
that.
should. I can't physically get myself to.
Yeah, for any of the past TikToks I've made, you go back and look at your notes.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a good enough brush up. We don't want to rig the system.
Yeah, and I just don't think I could hear myself talk from
It's
2 years
hard.
ago.
It's a tough time. Yeah.
Definitely. And I mean, we've come such a long way. I mean, it doesn't seem like it because we just had a whole conversation about Nordstrom Rack and shoes on our freaking podcast. Save it for
Okay.
a personal life. I know.
The content
But
is the same. The quality is better.
hopefully. I like to think so.
I'm sure plenty of people can relate right now to having a very specific image of a shoe or whatever it is that you want in your mind. And it seems like it doesn't exist. So you spend
Yeah.
all this time shopping and searching.
And I can't get them online. Because
No,
it's,
you can't try them
like
on.
shoes are one of those things that you have to try on, and Memphis has terrible shopping. Like maybe I'll just drive to Nashville. I don't know.
Nashville trip.
We should do it
Okay, let's do it.
anyway. So check it out on Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/nightclassy /nightclassy to find those
Figure it out,
episodes.
people.
We love your support, and I feel like you guys don't understand how much Patreon really helps us. Like we would not be able to have this show. Patreon covers the show's expenses,
Which is more than you would think.
It is way more than you would think. Like, oh, you're making this podcast. Like it's free to make. No, it's not. Like
Yeah.
it's not free. So we really appreciate you guys who do donate to us on Patreon. Like we appreciate it more than you could ever know. It means so much to us. So if you want to support the show and make sure we can keep going, definitely check it out there, and there's bonus content for you. It's a win-win situation.
When we go public, you all will get some stocks.
What if we had a Patreon tier where you could buy your way into a piece of the show, a piece of the non-existent pot?
I think we should make it. Why not?
Let's do it. $1,000 a month. You can have a 1% stake of Night Classy.
I was going to say $300,000 per year, so we could each have $100,000.
That would be you know what? You can have the show if you wanted to. You have a 100% stake if you want to do that. Maybe we just have a Kennedy listening and they're like, oh, yes, that's pocket change.
Pocket change to me. I can support. We are fully willing to be sugar babies. If we can just keep doing what we're doing, we can be bought.
100%. You want feet pics? Donate to us on Patreon. That's easy. I have ugly feet, but we can pretend. Anyway.
I was just laughing about Shark Tank. Hello, sharks. I'm looking for for $300,000 for 1% stake in my podcast.
Yeah, my podcast that so far has made $0.
They're like, that's an evaluation of $3 billion.
Yup,
that's right. It's called manifestation.
Ever heard of it?
Ever heard of it? We forgot the breathalyzer today. So I'm just going to go first because Hayley went first last time. So I have slides, and we're going to start with the first slide. And Hayley, I want you to look at that picture and tell me what you see.
Oh, wow. There's a lot of stuff going on here. Okay, it looks like we're in a town square or something, probably in the 1600s.
Nailed
if I had
it.
to guess.
Well, close. 1700s.
1700s.
That's really close.
Yeah,
she did nail it.
Yeah.
That's
close.
impressive.
I was just laughing that you said nailed it, and then you're like, actually, it was a wrong answer.
She was 100 years off. That's not much in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, technically a bullseye.
I'm
considering
impressed.
how old the Earth is. So shut up, Alex.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, she had 13 billion years to choose from, and she nailed it.
Okay, so from in the left corner, I see an artist. He has paint in his hand, and then he's elevated, and there's a guy with a big old what's that called? A stein. A stein, and he's smoking this long pipe, and there's a man next to him just chilling, laid back, this big old pot belly. And then next to them, in the background, I see someone with a big, they're whipping a big towel or something.
Oh, God.
We have a couple snuggling a little bit, another person.
Overall, what are they all holding?
They're all holding their steins.
They're all holding steins. And what's the overall emotion that you see people? Are they having fun?
Drunk as hell.
Drunk. They're happy though, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's very relaxed.
It's good.
Jolly.
It's good vibes. It's jolly. They're all drinking beer.
Yeah, it's like a bustling town square.
Yes.
If we didn't mention that.
Yes.
We were kind of just naming people.
Haley mentioned it was a town square.
In the background, there's a guy getting a stein from a hole in the door. It looks like it's a street bar.
It says a pawnbroker, and he's getting a beer out of a hole. But yeah, so good vibes all around. We got steins. Now, Alec, go to the next picture, and Haley, tell me what you see.
Okay, immediately there's a small child falling out of a mother's arm. Everyone looks sick. Everyone, this is not a good situation. Not good. There's a saw. There's a coffin hanging from a store.
People have open wounds.
Yeah. This guy literally looks like he's dead. There's someone eating a bone with their dog.
Yeah. So bad vibes in this one. Very bad vibes.
Things have taken a turn. Oh no, there's someone up in the rafters who unalived himself.
Yeah. Not good. So there's definitely two different stories happening in these etchings.
Yeah.
These were done by William Hogarth in 1751. The first one is called Beer Street, and it illustrates the safety and morality of drinking beer. It goes along with a print, what did I write here? That does not make sense. This print goes along with a verse that reads, quote, "Happy produce of our isle, we quaff thy balmy juice with glee, and water leave to France."
Ew. Quaff balmy juice?
I don't know what quaff means. Smell?
I don't want to know.
I have no idea. But basically, beer is great, and France can kick rocks and drink water is what they're saying. This second picture is called Gin Lane, and it shows the dangers of drinking gin, which is why we have some London dry gin that we're drinking today.
Perfect. This picture is insane. Y'all have to go look at it. I'm just now noticing there's a man blindfolded who also has a stool propped up like in his hand. He's about to like bludgeon someone with it, it looks like.
Yeah, they're
It's just
fighting.
chaos.
It's pure chaos. And I have a list of some of the things that we might have missed here that I'll read in a second. And that second will be right now because it's my next bullet point. So right in the foreground, the first thing you saw, this is a drunken mother and she's about to take a snuff and she's like so drunk and distracted that she dropped her baby and it's falling down the stairs. We see
The baby's high key dramatic. Very dramatic.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where they don't know how to draw a baby, so they drew a small adult face.
Yeah, he's
and
like,
it's very
oh, but it's not a look of terror. It just looks like he's acting.
Yeah, it looks like he's diving into a pool.
Yeah.
We see a drunken man beating himself over the head somewhere in there, and I couldn't find it, but apparently there's a baby's head being carried on a spike. We mentioned the hanged man. Alec mentioned that people are covered in sores. These are syphilis sores. And then Hayley pointed out the beggar and the street dog fighting over a bone, the brawling in the streets. There's also a dead body being placed in a coffin back here.
Sure is.
And it's also being searched for valuables to steal from it, to buy more gin. And we also see a pawn breaker who people are selling their belongings to in order to frantically buy more gin. The print was accompanied by a verse that read, "Gin, cursed fiend with fury fraught, makes human race prey. It enters by a deadly draught and steals life away." This
Pretty bleak.
pretty bleak, and you might think this is hyperbole, an exaggeration, but this is not as much of an exaggeration as you might think.
Really? That was
No.
going to be my question. Like, is this accurate? But then I literally thought, no, this is just some propaganda.
It is propaganda, and like it probably literally wasn't this bad, but it was bad. This was produced at the height of what was called the Gin Craze in London. A period of time where a pint of gin, also called the mother's ruin, was cheaper than a pint of beer. And there were consequences.
What has this country come to?
Bad things. So just a little brief history on gin. Gin's core ingredient is juniper berries, which have been used in alcohol as far back as 70 AD. So we've been using this shit for a while. At first, their use was medicinal, and the berries were steeped in wine to treat mostly things like chest ailments, opening up the lungs. In the 16th century, the Dutch began producing a spirit called Genevieve, and this was a malt wine that they would combine juniper berries with to mask its bad taste.
Okay.
It wasn't quite as strong as gin. It was more of a wine, a little higher alcohol percentage than wine. It was about 30% alcohol, whereas modern gin is like 45.
Good to know.
But I think gin back then was stronger than the gin we have now. I think it was closer to 60.
Yeah, I'd want stronger gin if I was living back then.
Yeah, you need it.
That's the beginning of a rhyme. I'd want stronger gin if I was living back then.
And this Genevieve stuff, it was also used as medicine to treat all kinds of random stuff. And it was not until the 17th century that gin started to more resemble what we know today. The English began brewing the drink and shortened the name Genevieve to Gen, but it was misspelled. Instead of an E, someone put in an I, and that's where we get the word gin. Yeah, it stuck around. In 1689, William III of England, who was originally Dutch and known as William of Orange, became King of England, Scotland, and Ireland. And one of the first things he did was promote the consumption of gin.
Why though?
Because he hated the France. He hated the French. England was feuding with France, and a really popular drink in England at the time was French brandy. So in order to hurt the French economically, he blocked the importation of brandy. He also imposed heavy taxes on French cognac and wine. And so what they were pretty much left with was gin and beer.
He was a freaking hater.
He was a hater.
Definitely had stocks in gin.
Probably. I mean, he was Dutch, and that's where it comes from. So
Yeah.
that could have been part of it.
Did he have orange hair? Is that why they called him that nickname?
No.
Oh, okay.
He was from, I don't actually, I feel like I should know more about Prince William or William of Orange. I feel like I've heard that name a lot, but I don't actually know.
I've never heard
much
it. You said
about
he's
him.
Scottish?
Dutch. Yeah.
Dutch. Right. This gin is hitting me.
Fair enough. I put a lot of gin in our cup. Sorry.
They still wear orange at the Olympics. The Dutch do because of him.
Yeah. He's a powerful guy. He passed, I don't know what he did, but he became the King of England. So it must have been good. He passed something called the Corn Laws, which provided tax breaks on spirit production. So that kind of helped like produce more spirits instead of beer.
Yeah.
Because beer was pretty dominant at the time. The London Guild of Distillers was also broken up in 1690. So they had kind of like a union over distilling, and breaking this up essentially opened up gin distilling to anyone who wanted to do it. They no longer had protections, really. It was a free market.
Much easier.
Much
Get
easier.
your gin on.
That's right. And there were also like no restrictions on gin distilling, no licenses required. Breweries were held to a certain standard. Like they were, if you were brewing beer, you had to also offer food and lodging on the residents, but no such rules existed for distilleries.
And that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does.
It does make sense.
I think even like bars in modern times, you
They
usually have to
have
offer
to.
food.
Yeah.
Not the case back then. All of these things made the price of gin plummet until it was dirt cheap, because basically the market is flooded with just anyone who wants to brew it in their bathtub and sell it on the street.
Ew.
One sign above a gin cellar read, quote, "Drunk for a penny, dead drunk for 2 pennies, clean straw for nothing."
Clean straw.
Meaning that you'd get so drunk on gin for 2 pennies, you'd pass out in a pile of straw.
Oh,
And I can guarantee you it was not clean.
Yeah, I think just intrinsically it will not be that.
No, it was probably full of fleas and freaking nasty.
Clean enough for your drunk ass.
That's true. You're dead drunk, so you don't know. And at the same time, the cost of food dropped. And so now people had a little bit more disposable income. Now they're like, the streets are flooded with this dirt cheap alcohol.
And you're going to be drinking alcohol anyway. You're not going to be drinking the water.
No, you're not going to be drinking the water. And yeah, beer for a long time was water. And now there's something cheaper than beer. And now you have a little bit more income. So pretty much everyone was drinking gin. High society drank it as well, because it was kind of seen as patriotic to drink gin because it came from England instead of drinking, French wine. And we hate the French. So we're going to like show how much we love England and drink gin.
Hate the French, loved the desserts.
What desserts do you like from...
Macarons.
Oh, macarons. I should have known. I don't understand the macaron obsession. I would like to, but I just
As
can't get on board.
someone who really strives to have a crunch texture in
you do
every
like the
meal,
crunch.
creme brulee, macarons, ice cream with sprinkles, all hit the mark.
Ice cream with sprinkles is pretty good. Have
Classic.
you ever... In Vermont, you get like soft serve and then they roll it in the chocolate sprinkles. Have you ever had that?
Yeah, there was a place in the town I grew up in. It was like Whippy Dip or something like that, and they would put little eyes on their cones.
That's cute.
Very cute.
I love that. Now I want to go get... I don't even like ice cream. I don't know why I'm saying that, but I do like sprinkles. I
It's
just want to eat the
fun.
sprinkles off of it.
We'll have to go. I remember one time, so our therapist, my family all went to see the same therapist because family trauma. And we were waiting for her to be ready for us. So my mom was like, let's go get some ice cream. And Troy, I had eaten like half of it, and my brother thought it would be funny to like take a video and like whip the ice cream out of my hand. I was so pissed. I'd be like, oh, we're going to have stuff to talk about in therapy today.
That's bad. That's like really bad. Did he at least give you his ice cream after he did it?
I think he offered it to me, but I had just been standing there because I didn't really plan on it. But I was like, maybe I want a few more licks before we go in. I think all the sprinkles were gone. So
okay, as long as you got the sprinkles off.
The most important thing, the sprinkles and eyeballs.
That's something that like you see in a cartoon as a kid, like someone knocking the ice cream out of their hand and you think like, oh, that's a cool thing to do. And then you do it and immediately realize it's not a cool thing to do and you don't do that in real life.
Yeah, I think I still have the video somewhere. He was probably in like 8th grade.
Okay.
So it was peak asshole.
That choice. Yeah. So this low price of gin meant that pretty much everyone and literally everyone in England now had access to it. And it really like consumed London's poor. Obviously being poor, like regardless of the times, is awful. And there's tons of challenges that come with it. But I think we can agree that like back then, like it was like maybe especially bad. Like,
yeah, when the quality of life in general back then was lower for everyone, it's gonna be lower.
Yeah, and like there's no general protections. So you might be starving, freezing, chronically ill, dealing with all kinds of trauma. I mean, stuff poor people go through today, obviously, but you're in 1700s, 1600s in England, and now for a penny you can get drunk and forget about everything.
Not a bad deal.
And I mean, so you can understand why like pretty much the entire working class in these slums was now constantly drunk on gin.
Yeah, it's like an epidemic.
It was. It led to unprecedented rates of alcoholism. And even worse, gin production was unregulated. So you never really knew what you were drinking. Even if it was real gin, it was not like the gin we have today. It was super strong, harsh alcohol. People were not making cocktails like you were drinking it straight. Often it was served hot too.
Ew, gin tea.
Yeah, basically in the winter there were like booths that sold gingerbread and hot gin. And so
that's a vibe though.
I mean, gingerbread sounds good, but can you imagine sipping on hot gin? That makes me want to.
No, I can't.
Disgusting.
I'd have to get some cold gin first.
Yeah.
And then warm up with my gin and gingerbread.
I know. I wonder if that's why it seems like a strange combination other than the name.
Yeah. They're like, how can we possibly make this epidemic more fun?
Yeah. Definitely putting gingerbread in the mix would make it more fun. And I mean, I assume gingerbread back then was not like cookies. Like it was probably like actual bread.
Yeah.
Which also sounds good.
Gingerbread in general, I'm not a huge fan. I feel like it's just burnt bread. Like it was an accident almost is what it feels like.
I love gingerbread cookies. It's like the one kind of cookie that I actually like.
That makes sense. They're not overpoweringly sweet.
No, they're like spicy and good. Yeah.
That's so you. Oh my God.
I'm with Hayley. I feel like they could like break your teeth on them.
Yes.
If properly made gingerbread cookies though are real, like I hate the gingerbread cookies like that you get from the store, and like
those are always hard.
That's gross. But if you make them yourself, they're really good.
I don't know if you can make a house out of that shit.
No, no, gingerbread is not good. But like if you make like a good ginger cookie, that shit is delicious.
Make it for me.
I will.
Okay,
we should do that. So like it was disgusting, and even if you like were getting. Or no, I already said that. So pure gin was bad, but like it was usually worse than that. Back alley distillers were commonly cutting gin with things like turpentine, sulfuric acid, and sawdust.
Oh
so
my God,
it was fucked.
I feel like we're talking about the opioid epidemic going on right now.
Yeah, in one article it compared it to like the crack epidemic of the 80s. Yeah. It's pretty similar because now not only are people suffering from alcoholism, but having things like drinking things like turpentine and sulfuric acid, like people were going blind, they were getting brain damage, like quote unquote madness was on the rise. That's what they called it, but it's true. Like people were now like permanently brain damaged because of this stuff they were drinking. It was really dangerous.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
How do you cut gin with sawdust?
They were using sawdust instead of wheat. So like to distill it. So it's distilled with like fermented grain. And so they'd be like dumping sawdust in with the grain that they were selling, because what was happening was they were making gin out of the byproduct of like grain that you'd use for bread. And so companies that were selling that like byproduct would mix it with sawdust, and then you'd be distilling sawdust.
So does the sawdust like ferment?
I believe so, but it makes like, I think like wood alcoholic, some like really bad, like dangerous alcohol.
That's crazy, because you always hear about them cutting all kinds of stuff with sawdust, but I'm like, how do you cut alcohol with that?
It's part of the distilling process. They weren't like mixing it in with the finished product.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's really scary. By 1730, there were 7,000 gin shops in London alone.
Jeez, talk about a saturated market.
Yeah, and I think like gin shops is used pretty loosely, but there were probably even more than that, because these are only the ones that were like registered.
Yeah, at least 7,000 gin locations or sellers.
Yeah. And there were 10 million gallons of gin being produced each year.
Oh
the
my
average
God.
Londoner back then drank 14 gallons of gin annually.
That almost seems like not enough for what I'm hearing. I'm trying to picture full,
I mean,
but
picture
it's
a
strong.
gallon.
It's
Like that's
strong.
more than a gallon a month. So can you imagine drinking a gallon of gin every month?
No.
You would be dead.
I'd for sure die. I mean,
Yeah.
we've talked about this so many times. If I was born before 1997, I'd be dead.
Yeah, I 100%
That's a joke,
agree.
but also not really.
And like this wasn't even that long ago. It was like 300 years ago. Like I guess that's a pretty long time, but like it's crazy how far we've come.
yeah, and how much farther we have to go
Yeah.
still.
Definitely. So like you said, it was truly an epidemic. Crime, quote unquote, madness, and death rates rose as birth rates fell. It became a big problem. Pretty much everyone was speaking out against this. Preachers, politicians, lay people. Like it became a huge point of contention. The Vice Chamberlain, Lord Harvey, remarked, quote, "Drunkenness of the common people was universal. The town of London swarmed with drunken people from morning till night." This problem built and built and built until 1734, when it reached its breaking point with the case of Judas Dufour.
I like that name. That's a strong name.
Did I say Judas? I meant to say Judith.
Never mind.
Sorry, Judith Dufour. Judith was born into poverty and began working as a silk weaver at only about 10 or 12 years old. Quick trigger warning for infant loss. She worked as a weaver for 15 years before, quote, she fell into bad company and had a bastard child, which died. It can be inferred that she then lost her job as a weaver due to having a pregnancy out of wedlock, and with no education or marketable skills other than like basic weaving, she was left destitute. Judith ended up having another child, a daughter named Mary, who she was constantly shuttling in and out of workhouses. And workhouses were facilities where the poor could be provided with like a place to stay and basic necessities in exchange for labor. And you could also, I think, leave your babies and children there if you couldn't take care of them yourself.
Yeah.
So she was kind of like leaving Mary here and then picking her up when she could and then leaving her back at the workhouse.
That's so tough.
Yeah.
And it's like whoever's in charge is going to hate women no matter what. Like,
What?
not everyone, but just talking about misogyny, thinking that she got fired from her job for being unmarried and pregnant.
Yeah.
It's just bullshit.
Oh, yeah. It was not good times back then, for sure. On January 29th, Judith picked up her daughter Mary from the workhouse she'd left her at, and she brought the baby with her on a drinking binge with her and her friend Suki, who was, quote, one of the most vilest creatures in or about the town. So together they go out. The baby had been given a new set of clothes at the workhouse, and the two friends drank until they ran out of money, but they wanted to buy more gin. So Suki suggested, quote, to sell the child's clothes and carry it into the fields and leave it there. Yeah.
Keep the baby.
Right. It's unclear whether the two intended to go retrieve the baby later in the night or like if they planned on like leaving it there indefinitely. We're not sure.
Jesus.
And just a quick warning, it's about to get really disturbing. Judith agreed to Mary's plan, and they undressed Mary and laid her down in a nearby field.
Oh my God. Okay. Let the record show that before we started recording, you said, yeah, I was going to do something kind of dark, but then I decided not to this week. It's more light and fun.
Okay. This is the dark part. There's like a page of dark stuff. I mean, this lesson is dark. I don't want to discount like getting the poor addicted to alcohol and then this,
but it could get worse
with the baby. The other topic I was going to do was arguably like, I don't want to like,
we don't want to make
comparisons of awful things.
I'm
but
just
like,
saying this is rough.
This is terrible. Yeah. But at least like it started out kind of fun with the pictures. Yeah, I don't know. Like there was like one fun element.
I love a picture podcast. Yes.
And we're going to end on a fun element. So you know what? I'm trying here. The thing I was gonna do was like really fucked up like the whole way through.
Yeah.
And also required a lot of research. And I'm gonna save it for another time. I will come back to it.
That should be our new opening. Powered by thirst for knowledge and sliding scale of fucked up
shit. Yeah. I think the reason I thought I said this lesson was fun is because it came with a cocktail. Like I got to go buy gin and some cocktail stuff. I think that's why I thought it was fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall it is pretty dark. You're right.
Fun elements.
And wipe that smile off your face because it's about to get a whole lot less fun. Here we go. Wipes the smile off my face. I don't want to be on camera saying this with the smile on my face. Okay. This is terrible. Okay. They then, quote, tied a linen rag hard around the child's neck to prevent it crying out, which strangled her. The two then walked back into town, sold the baby's clothes, and used the money to buy more gin.
Yep. That was awful.
Yep. Terrible. So Judith was put on trial for murder 5 weeks later and sentenced to death by hanging. Here's a quote from a newspaper at the time. She said she was very sorry for what was done and was never at peace since it happened, and she scarce desired to live and therefore made a voluntary confession. She had always been of surly disposition, an irretractable creature, a despiser of religion, negligent in her duty to God and man, and she would take no good advice from her friends nor any good or sober people. She drank and swore much and was adverse to virtue and sobriety, delighting in the vilest companies and ready to practice the worst of actions. She acknowledged the justice of her sentence and died in peace with all mankind.
So, Boom roasted.
Jesus, Hayley. So obviously a horrible tragedy. And I think
I'm sorry. When I hear Alec laugh, it just makes me laugh more.
But like, yeah, so she was hanged. She did pretty much the worst thing anyone could possibly do. And
but also she had terrible circumstances. We can't really blame it.
Are you kidding? Yes, we can blame her. She killed a baby.
You didn't let me finish. I said we can't blame it all on her.
I think we're all. I mean, there are plenty of people who are like in poverty and alcoholics that don't murder a child.
You're right. Okay, all the blame can go on her, but she was not set up well to succeed regardless.
Yeah, and I think what this was a realization for everybody that this was a systemic issue and like gin was a bigger problem than like anyone had initially realized.
Yeah, they're in the courts like, this is really bad.
Yeah, it's very, very bad. And it was the wake-up call that the government needed to kind of do something about this gin problem.
Can you imagine if it took one incident like this to cure a systemic issue? Like, I mean, imagine what America could be.
I mean, not to get dark, but I mean, we had a massive school shooting this week, and there have been
There have been several
Dozens
more
of
this
them.
weekend.
Yeah, dozens
It's like-
of shootings. And I mean, many children have died and we haven't done shit about it. So
that's exactly what I'm saying.
yeah, it's pretty awful. Luckily, in this case, something was sort of done about it. The Gin Act of 1736 was passed, which heavily taxed the retail sale of gin and required a 50-pound annual license to sell it. 50 pounds was a very high cost. It was designed to be prohibitive and severely limit the sale of gin. Only what it instead did was push gin production underground, lowering the quality of gin further and making it even more poisonous. Only 2 licenses were ever purchased at this price.
That's a flex.
Yeah, so
It was just
it didn't go well.
It was a shared license. Like 25 people contributed.
Yeah, it was probably just like the one like person producing gin like for all the like nobles that like actually bought a license, and then like everyone else just kind of kept doing their thing.
Yeah, weird how if you outlaw something.
Yeah, it keeps happening. And
Yeah.
I mean it depends on the
depends on
thing.
what it is.
Like
Yeah,
this
you're right.
argument applies to certain things and not
Yes.
others.
I'm thinking of abortion.
Yes, I feel like we just talked about school shootings, and I
Yes.
didn't want anyone to get the wrong idea.
Absolutely.
of what
We
you were
need
talking about.
stricter gun laws.
Yeah.
All of that. That applies. You know, you can, if you need or want an abortion, you could do that at home.
Yes,
If
exactly.
you need or want a gun, you can't get one at home.
Yeah, I saw a TikTok today, and it was like someone talking about that argument of like criminals are going to get it anyway. It's like school shooters, many of these guys are 18. Like, how is an 18-year-old going to navigate the black market and get a gun? They're not. They get it from freaking Walmart or from their like under their parents'
Absolutely.
bed.
Absolutely. And if it's harder to get guns, there'll be less on the market. And it just, I don't want to go off on.
Yeah, regulate gun sales. Anyway, so yeah, it ended up like honestly getting kind of worse when they tried to do this. So like they kept like passing gin acts. I think there were like 5 major ones. I'm only going to talk about these 2.
Like a bad sequel.
Yeah. The next one that I'm going to talk about is the Gin Act of 1751. And what this did was it lowered license fees required for gin retailers to sell. So now, like, it made it a little bit more attainable to sell legally, but it also put in the requirement that you had to be renting a building for at least £10 per year. What this was meant to do is to promote the quote unquote respectable selling of gin, basically keeping people from selling it like out of their house or on the street. Like you had to have a storefront.
Okay.
And I assume, I didn't see this explicitly in the research, but I assume it also, I don't know how much £10 per year was back then, but maybe it was keeping it out of like poor neighborhoods that, I mean,
Yeah, seems that
fell
way.
on hard times with the gin craze a little bit more. I'm not sure. But basically, you know, making it so that there was some kind of storefront and regulation to
an
selling
additional
gin.
barrier.
Yeah. In 1757, the gin craze was mostly ended, but most historians agree that's not because of the Gin Acts, but more due to the rising cost of grain. So the cost of grain went up, and so people who were selling grain were making more money and no longer had to sell their byproduct and produce gin. So there was less gin on the market. There was also a lot of population growth at this time, combined with a few years of bad harvests, which drove up the cost of food and made people less willing to spend their money on alcohol. Beer and tea were also being actively promoted as good alternatives to gin. And in 1830, beer had once again become cheaper than gin after over a century. Also, hurrah! I just think that's crazy that for 100 years, gin was like the drink of choice and was the cheapest thing. I never knew that.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
And I know before we started this episode, or maybe it was, I guess you said it during the episode. I can't remember. But Alex said that gin became a drink of choice in college. But I've always imagined it, or it seemed to me, like a more expensive, more like fancy beverage, a little extra. But I guess that's just cocktails in general.
Yeah,
in
I think
my
it's
mind.
because you don't typically take shots of gin.
Yeah.
That like you order it as a cocktail, so like it seems a little more expensive.
And I just want to explain myself there. I told them this, but the reason gin became the drink of choice in college was because we'd gotten so sick after doing shots of every other liquor that gin was the only option.
Yeah. My drink of choice in college was tequila. For that reason, I got sick off vodka too many times.
Oh, yeah. I ruined tequila within the first 6 months of college. So it was a good run while I had it.
I ruined whiskey and vodka really early on.
I can't do whiskey. I can't do 151. That night wrecked me. Yeah.
Yeah. My drink of choice as an adult, though, is a gin and tonic, but I would never take a shot of gin.
It's
Fuck that.
really growing on me since knowing you. My drink of choice as an adult is a White Claw.
So let's see. So beer is now more like cheaper in 1830. Also in 1830, an Irishman named Aeneas Coffey invented a new type of still that revolutionized liquor production. So now it was a lot easier to make pure, good quality liquor. And so now we can make better gin. And that helped gin gain more popularity in a more positive light, because now real gin, not cut with a bunch of shit, was more accessible. Also helping out with gin's popularity was the British Navy. Sailors often traveled to places where they were at risk of malaria, so they had to take quinine to prevent and treat the disease. But quinine tastes really bad, so a company called Schweppes started making Indian tonic water to make it easier to drink. At the same time, English dry gin was typically taken on these voyages because it didn't spoil as easily as beer did. So these soldiers, I was combining soldiers and sailors. Soldiers. These sailors now had gin and tonic water. They ended up mixing them and creating the gin and tonic.
We know her.
We do know her. And limes were added to the drink because of their anti-scurvy properties.
Oh my God. I love limes so much more now.
Isn't that cool that like we have this cocktail because it was like basically medicine for these sailors?
Yes. This podcast has taught me that there is a story behind everything.
Every single thing. It's crazy.
wild.
Do you ever go on Wikipedia roulette and just...
Yes. Yep.
I do it sometimes to pick a topic, and it really is like the most mundane shit. Half of Wikipedia roulette, I swear, is just famous soccer players from Europe, which don't care, not
There's so
interesting.
many.
But you can find really good topics.
You can. You definitely can.
So later, they were originally taking like limes on these voyages, but then they started making them into cordials. So, juicing them, mixing them with sugar to make them last longer. And then, of course, those cordials were mixed with the gin, creating the gin gimlet. Plymouth gin.
I don't know her.
You don't know her? It's
No.
just lime juice mixed with gin.
Oh, okay.
Just like
same but different.
Yeah. I don't think as good as I don't think I'd drink a gin gimlet, but it seems like a little too much for me.
Something about the seltzer that goes into it. The tonic.
Yeah, you need the fizz.
Yeah. I'm all about the texture.
Except you hate carbonation.
Carbonation helps in some instances.
Okay.
If I had to drink it, I guess I do really like White Claws.
Yeah.
I don't know. When I was younger, I didn't drink any pop, so it always like really burned my throat. But in my college years, I guess I got used to it quickly.
You adjust.
Yeah, you grow. You learn things.
Plymouth gin was the favorite brand of the Navy, and there was a Royal Naval base near that distillery in Plymouth. And during World War II, the Germans bombed this naval base and the gin distillery along with it.
Rude.
So rude. Probably the rudest thing the Germans did, and we're just kidding. Just kidding.
I was going to make a joke, but then you made that joke, and my joke wasn't the same vibe.
I'm sorry about that joke. That was probably in poor taste. Obviously. There were terrible atrocities.
But this was bad too.
So when that happened, a sailor remarked, quote, well, Hitler just lost the war because everyone was so angry about losing this distillery. Not only did they bomb the naval base, but they bombed everyone's favorite distillery. So like, obviously, like that shouldn't have been why they were angry, but
Yeah. But they were.
But that's how like people loved how much people loved this distillery, which, but you know,
but you know,
we know. So yeah, that was the gin craze. I'm glad that gin ended up making like a full PR recovery since then because it is my favorite liquor. I love a good gin and tonic.
Yeah, I can't think of any food or drink right now that is just associated with bad things. Am I just being dumb?
Any food or drink that's associated with bad things? Hot dogs. Those have a pretty bad rap. I feel like
they're nasty.
Yeah, because they're just
because
like
historically.
pig snouts and shit. Yeah, historically, I don't know. I feel like there's got to be something.
There's got to be other things. That could be a list bitch episode.
I feel like mayonnaise has a pretty bad reputation.
Food with bad reps. Yeah, mayonnaise is pretty gnarly.
Yeah, Jello.
I'm
Fruitcake. Yeah, that's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
Good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Junie B. Jones. Remember that fruitcake? Junie B. Jones.
I never read Junie B. Jones because my
Didn't your
mom
mom not let you?
mom wanted me to like it so bad, and I was like, I'm refusing to like this
Oh my
because out of
God.
spite.
At 6 years old, she came into this world spiteful.
I did. I was not about to let anyone tell me what I like.
Can I just say, I looked up what elderberries look like.
Juniper berries.
Excuse me, juniper berries. Never mind. I'm all wrong here.
You
I looked up the wrong
elderberries.
thing.
I think juniper berries
scratch
are
it.
white.
I really
up
like
real
the
quick.
name Juniper.
It is really cute.
Yeah, and Genevieve is
Oh,
really
they are
pretty
blue. Never
name
mind.
too.
I stand corrected.
Juniper would be a great name for my gray cat.
Juniper is the name of Christine Schieffer's cat from That's How We Drink.
Perfect.
Just copy everything they do. Anyway, my sources are the Gin Wikipedia page, vinepair.com. The article was called The Complete and Slightly Insane History of Gin in England by Celine Bassar. The Gin Craze Wikipedia page, a Vice.com article called How a Gin Craze Nearly Destroyed 18th Century London by Harry Sword, which Harry Sword is probably the best name I've ever heard. And history.co.uk and theexecutedtoday.com. And that website is wild. You can go in and type on a date and it'll tell you everyone who was executed on that date.
Okay. Awesome.
Executed.
What did I say?
Executed like the Pokemon.
Executed? You say executed?
Executed is the word.
Executed?
And you're saying executed like the Pokemon.
It's just how she talks.
I just sound like that. Stop talking to me. Sorry. Anyway.
is
we
phonics?
drank gin and I got a little loose because I haven't had anything to eat. So I apologize if I've like disrupted.
Execute.
And for those of you who don't know who is even talking right now, Alec is our producer,
Yeah.
Kat's boyfriend. If you're new here, this random male voice.
I'm like, I
Didn't
looked
get
up
introduced.
elderberries. You're like, it's juniper berries. I just throw up.
He hasn't even drank his whole cocktail yet. And he is freaking
Yeah, I'm about
butting in here
halfway
with this
through.
elderberry shit.
I have like lesions on my legs by the end of this.
I am one with the 1700s, 1800s, 1700s
Yes,
it was.
yes.
Right.
Good job.
Right.
Right. All right. Well, shall we hear from our sponsor?
I think we shall.
All right. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Without a healthy mind, being truly happy and at peace is hard. The good news is therapy works. But what is therapy exactly? It's whatever you want it to be. Maybe you're not feeling motivated right now and would like some tools to help, or maybe you're feeling insecure in relationships or at work, not dealing well with stress. Whatever you need, it's time to stop being ashamed of normal human struggles and start feeling better, because you deserve to be happy. And now you don't have to worry about finding an in-person therapist near you to help. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to, and I don't want to. It is much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. Join the millions of people who are seeing what online therapy is really about. It's always a good time to invest in yourself because you are your greatest asset. And special offer to Night Classy listeners, you can get 10% off your first month of professional therapy at betterhelp.com/classy. That is better, HELP.com/classy. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring this episode. And remember, when you support our sponsors, you support us. So if you're considering BetterHelp, please remember to use that promo code CLASSY.
Welcome back.
Hello.
It's my turn. Hello. This learning journey starts off with a question. Are you ready?
Yes.
Who let the dogs out?
A bow wow.
Bow wow is the incorrect answer.
No, what?
We'll get to it. Definitely
Okay.
not Bow Wow.
What? Isn't that who sings it? No, who sings it?
Well, the version that is extremely popular is by the Baha Men.
Oh.
You were so confident too. Bow Wow.
I mean, who else to sing Who Let the Dogs Out?
Literally so many people.
Okay.
I love that though. Keep that energy. All right, so Steve Greenberg, he's a music producer, a writer. He hosts a podcast. He's a manager. He discovered the band AJR. He discovered the Jonas Brothers.
Love. God bless.
God bless. He was working in his office one day in 1998 when another producer, someone from England, Jonathan King, walks in. And Jonathan was there to show Steve this new album he just signed. And Steve wasn't really sure what to expect because Jonathan was eccentric. His music taste was much different than Steve's, and he was just kind of out there. So the artist was called Fat Jack and His Pack of Pets, and the song was called Doggy. So they listened to the song, and Steve thought that it was, quote, the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. The guy singing it had a fake Caribbean accent. It sounded cheesy, and to me, it sounds kind of like a squeaky wheel.
Oh, can we listen to it?
We can. That
Okay.
is the next slide.
My life. Who let the dogs out?
What the fuck?
Was that it?
That was it. That was just a clip. We can.
Can we play it
insert more-
again?
Yeah.
My life. Who let the dogs out?
I love it.
Totally different energy, but we recognize the hook.
Yeah.
Who let the dogs out? It just makes me think of that one bad wheel on your card at Kroger.
Yeah.
It's just fighting you the whole way. So Steve is like, who wrote this song? But Jonathan won't answer him. He's being weirdly coy about it. And he's like, I don't know. And then Steve is like, is it you? Is it you, Jonathan? He's like, literally, yes. Jonathan confesses it was him singing. And Steve is probably thinking like, that checks out, right? Like they always say those who can't teach. Maybe it's those who
Rude.
can't produce. That's a saying. I'm not saying it's true, but I'm saying it's a saying for, whatever reason. Steve really, I guess in the grand scheme of things, enjoyed the song, or at least the hook, but he was like, this is not the right version. So I'm going to keep the demo CD and I'm going to look into who wrote the song and figure out where it came from, because Jonathan seemed to know nothing about the lyrics and where they came from. He didn't write them himself. He had just heard it around. So Steve was interested, and he truly believed that if he aligned things perfectly, he could make it a hit song. So he started on his research. But researching in the 90s is not the same as researching today.
He had to go to a library.
He didn't go to a library,
Okay.
but I actually learned a fun fact. Steve went to an early search engine called Ask Jeeves.
Yes.
Which is now known as ask.com. I had no idea. And Ask Jeeves makes you feel at least what I imagine to be very formal, very
it's like
elegant.
a butler.
Yes.
You ask your butler.
Ask
It's
Jeeves.
like, it was like an early version of Siri.
Yeah, pretty much. I wish Siri was called Jeeves.
Why?
That'd be so fun. I just like the name Jeeves, I guess.
Yeah, I wonder where they got that from.
Me too. It's a butler name. So in the search box of Ask Jeeves, Steve wrote, "Who let the dogs out?"
Bow wow. I feel so stupid.
Watch this.
Now that you said the Baja Man, I'm like, oh yeah, I knew that. But for whatever reason, I mean, I know why. It's because dogs.
It's the Mandela
Bow Wow.
effect.
Yeah.
That's what it is. In an alternate universe, it was Bow Wow.
Listen, I'm young. I was born in 97. So like I wasn't around when
You
this
don't
whole thing
know-
happened.
you
so
don't know
I can't-
nothing.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm stupid.
I'm a stupid girl.
So Ask Jeeves sends Steve's to a message board. And this message board is full of people who had recently vacationed in the Caribbean. All of the messages go something like this. I was just on vacation in the insert island name, and I kept hearing this awesome song. Something like, "Who let the dogs out?" Does anyone
Sorry.
Does anyone know about this song? And it's just all of these questions, no answers. And he spends a ton of time sifting through this message board with no results until he finally finds,
It's like the summer of Despacito. Like
I don't know what that is.
Despacito.
Oh, yes.
It's like the summer it got popular. Like a bunch of people I knew had gone and vacationed in Spain, and they all came back being like, we heard this amazing song in all the clubs. It's called Despacito. And we were like, what? And then a month later, it was like the #1 song in the United States.
And then it hit.
Yeah.
That was back when I worked for Cutco, and they always rewarded us with trips when we hit numbers. So that checks out. We were in Mexico, and that came on.
Yeah.
A true
You were
hipster
one of
shit.
those.
I was one of them. Yeah. Now I'm a teacher. So fuck. Anyway, Steve is sifting through all of these messages with no answer until he finally finds a response to all of their questions. Someone just said this. They said, the song is called Doggy by Anselm Douglas. So we can take a listen to this song by Anselm Douglas.
Wait, so the other guy like stole it from this guy, like stole the chorus?
He did like a remix.
Okay.
Yeah. A cover, if you will.
Okay.
And that is on the next slide, Alec.
Past this?
Yep. Past this, the next one.
This one?
This one.
Okay. This one?
Yep.
It says Memories of a Caribbean Cruise.
Everybody having a ball, yeah, buddy, yeah, yo. Until a man is standing here calling, oh, yeah, yo. Then a girl respond to the call. I hear a woman shout out, who let the dogs out? Who?
That sounds correct.
Sounds pretty close
Yeah.
to the version we know, but definitely different from the one that Jonathan brought in to show Steve.
Right.
That
Little
song. I don't know which one I like more, honestly. I'm forever going to be, that's like trying to talk to a cat. Like, you know how people do the wispy?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this song we just heard was written for Carnival in Trinidad, and it was inspired by Anselm's brother-in-law, who in an interview, he said would always come into their house when he was visiting. He would open the door and immediately start shouting, "Who let the dogs out?"
Love.
Being so inspired, Anselm worked on the song with another producer in Chicago named Ozzie Gurley. And immediately, Ozzie knew it could be a hit. Anselm already had ideas for the verse lyrics. And to Anselm, the song was a revenge song. A lot of people think that the lyrics, "Who let the dogs out," is talking about ugly girls.
That's what I thought.
That's not true.
okay.
So the lyrics go, the party was nice, the party was pumping, and everybody was having a ball until them men start their name calling and all the girls respond to the call. I hear a woman shout out, "Who let the dogs out?"
Oh, so she's like, shut the fuck up.
Shut the fuck up, you dog. They're calling the men dogs.
Uh-huh.
So the lyrics went on with further insults, including, "Last year in the dance, you had a ball. Called me mealybug and scuttle. Get back, mash fluffy. Get back, mash fluffy. Get back, you flea-infested mongrel. Who let the dogs out?"
Ouch.
He had a lot of anger to get out, I think.
This man hates dogs.
Smash Fluffy. Side note, a mealybug is an annoying bug who attacks fruit trees, and a skettle is a word from the Caribbean meaning a promiscuous female who often lives a frivolous lifestyle, and the male version is a mantle or montel. I'm not sure how to pronounce it,
Okay.
but there's that. So Anselm said that he was trying to make a party song that also had social commentary, but the party aspect of it overwhelmed the social message, and it became an absolute banger.
Yeah. What is the social message of Who Let the Dogs Out?
The social message, that's a great question. He definitely talked about it, and I thought that I would remember it, but obviously it doesn't even matter.
Fair.
I think it's something about like not catcalling women.
Okay, good.
So fair.
Yeah.
But that's not what shone through. What shone through was it being a vibe, and it pretty much overnight became a #1 hit in the Caribbean, not everywhere else. It went from being played during Carnival for about a year. And another fun fact I learned while doing this lesson was that islands in the Caribbean have something called Carnival, where it's
Carnival.
just Carnival. Thank you. Why
Yeah.
didn't you correct me earlier?
Well, I feel bad. I don't know.
We agreed months ago to correct each other when pronouncing things. You just got blasted for saying executed.
Oh my God.
Well, I thought you were saying Carnival Cruise Lines because the thing on the screen says Caribbean Cruise.
Oh, okay.
But I think Carnival and Carnival Cruise are different, right?
Yes, they
Carnival,
are-
yeah, it's
yeah,
different.
it's
Yeah.
like it's a
different
tradition.
from Carnival Cruises. Yeah.
It's different. But anyway, I learned about that. And I guess what is customary for the songs that are played at Carnival is that once they're played one year, they're not brought back the next year. They're like in with the new, out with the old.
That's fun.
Bye.
I like that.
Yeah, they keep it fresh. So it was a huge hit that year for Carnival. But then after that, things just fizzled. And obviously this was really frustrating for Ozzy and Anselm. But Ozzy had faith that the rest of the world would catch on to the wonder of Who Let the Dogs Out. So he waited and waited and waited, and a year went by until they got a call that someone was super interested in Who Let the Dogs Out. Steve Greenberg. He wanted to work with Mike Mangini to make a new version of Who Let the Dogs Out, after hearing Jonathan's record we heard at the top of this episode. So he goes over to Mike's house and he plays him the Fat Jack version. And Mike is like, what the actual
What
fuck?
did I just hear? Yeah.
Did I slip into some alternate universe? Like, what do you want me to do with this? What are you hoping to happen
What do
here?
you want me to say?
Because we need
it's
to
nothing
readjust.
nice. Yeah.
Steve explains that if they can make it in the same style of a song like Whoop, There It Is, then he's sure it will be a hit. And it took a lot of convincing. But finally, Mike was on board. He's on the same page as Steve. And Steve knows instinctually that the only people for this job are the Baha Men. And at this point, Steve had been working with the Baha Men. They made 5 records previously, and multiple times he felt that they came very close to having a hit, but it just never clicked. So Isaiah Taylor, a Baha Man, laughed really hard.
Baha Man, Isaiah Taylor.
Bahamian Baha Man.
Bow Wow Man.
Yeah. Not Bow Wow, Isaiah Taylor.
He laughed really hard when Steve told him that he wanted the Baha Men to sing a song called Who Let the Dogs Out.
Sir, your name is the Baha Men. You cannot laugh.
You must accept your fate.
Yeah.
Isaiah was sticking to his guns, though. He said no.
Why?
Because as far as he was concerned, it was already a huge hit in the Caribbean and everyone knew this song. So he was like, why would I cover this hit? Like, that seems kind of lame. He was insulted.
Yeah, it seems kind of rude. Like, I don't want to just steal someone else's song.
Yeah. But that was just in the Caribbean. Nowhere else around knew this song.
Yeah.
And it seems, I already said that, he was insulted, and Steve and the Baha Men go back and forth until finally they are convinced and agree to try to do the song. But on the eve of recording the song, the lead singer of Baha Men, Nia Maya Heald, quits the band. This is typical band drama, right? We could have expected that.
How pissed
If
would
life
you
was a
be?
movie.
Like, what if you quit night classy and then the next day, like, it
my
blows
God.
up?
Well,
How would you feel?
I guess I can't quit. Always, no.
We replaced
That'd
you with
be
a lookalike.
Awful.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you bring Georgia in here and she just that'd be something.
That's like I quit a band once, and the next day, the other guy of the duo got a song on Justin Bieber's album.
Oh my God.
Wow.
But it wasn't meant to be.
Yeah. Things happen.
You have
as
a
they
single
should.
tear rolling down your face.
fine.
As you
I just
say
break
that.
down.
Yeah, this gin has Alec in his feelings.
Yeah.
So he quits the band because he was going to go on tour with Lenny Kravitz. So not a bad gig. He felt like
Fair
he'd
enough,
be
yeah.
more successful there rather than waiting around. They'd already produced 5 albums and weren't seeing their dream become reality.
Yeah.
Steve begs him. He's like, just do this one last song before you leave. But he was sick of it. He had worked so hard, no success, so he leaves. They don't have a lead singer. They have to start this hunt for a new singer. No big deal. Everything's fine. Steve asked his friend Mike to audition everyone on the island and see who their new singer could be.
Everyone on the island?
Everyone on the island. He's
Even
like,
if they
get
don't want to?
as many people in as you can, get them in.
What island?
I'm not sure. One in the Caribbean.
Just an island.
An island somewhere, surely south of here.
Yes.
I don't know. That wasn't included.
Okay.
So just whatever island, pick one. So person after person arrives to audition for the band, many of them on breaks from their work. You had people who were like in their uniforms from their cleaning jobs, from being chefs, from whatever their job was, they were there to audition. Rick Carey is one of the first people to walk in, and spoiler alert, he does get the job, later saying he was nervous as shit. And this audition process was like the bohemian version of American Idol. There was a line wrapped around the hotel that they were auditioning people
Just
at,
to sing this song.
just to audition for this one song. Almira Heald also arrived to the audition. Marvin Prosper Knowles comes in and raps, which Mike really enjoyed. And these 3 men were young, attractive, and they had all grown up listening to the Baha Men.
Oh, that's fun.
Yes, it's so fun.
So the Baha Men was a Caribbean band. They weren't an American band.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. So these 3 guys really outshine the rest of those who are auditioning. And Mike calls Steve and he's like, hey, I don't have one singer, but I have 3 who I think they're all really good. So I don't know how we're going to choose who gets to be on. And
Fight
Mike is
to
like,
the
all
death.
3. All 3. Let's go.
Okay, that's better.
And then fight. All or nothing. But before he agrees to hire all 3 of them, Steve asks, do they all look young? He's like, yeah. Did they all look cool? Yeah. He's like, good. Hire them all. I have a picture of the 3 newest additions to the Baha Men. They're on the left. And then on the right, you can see the whole group.
They do look young and cool.
Yeah.
I like the like bleached hair.
Me too. They all have
They look
distinct
very
looks.
contemporary. I like this. It's crazy how much this like late 90s style has come back, because
It's
this
fully
picture
come
looks like
around.
it could have been taken yesterday.
I love the mandals too. And by
Yeah.
love, I mean hate.
The mandals. Oh,
In the middle?
I like them. I would wear those.
Yeah, you would. I don't know. I'm just not into it on a guy. I don't know what's wrong with me. If you're on the beach, flip-flops.
I don't like the black leather shoes on the beach. I think if they were brown leather, it would look a little better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, they're hot. They look cool. And they got hired. So the audition was on Saturday. They start recording in the studio Monday morning. There was no formal preparation, just good vibes all around. The men are working together. They're playing their live instruments, working day after day. And Mike is the one who's down there to produce this song while Steve is back in the States. But Steve comes down, or no, I guess they did fly them to Miami to record. But Steve is not in Miami, but he comes to Miami to see how the song is coming along. They play it for him, and he hates it. He's freaking out and he's like, Mike, this is all wrong. Like, I thought we were on the same page. Mike is like, what the fuck, dude? These guys are great singers. Steve agreed. They're great singers, but he said they were terrible barkers.
What? The who part is wrong?
Yes.
What were they doing?
Steve said, you all are saying who. You all should be barking like dogs.
Yeah, that's fair. But that's an easy fix.
Apparently not. Steve tried to get the Baja Men to do the bark exactly how he wanted it and have them do it over and over and over again. Everyone's getting sick and tired. And they're like, okay, smartass Steve, if you're such a barker, why don't you do it? Steve is like, okay, I'll do it. He goes in, barks into the microphone, and that's what they use in the song.
Oh my God. Wait, I'm so confused why they couldn't bark.
I don't know. Maybe their vocal cords just weren't working like that.
Is it a case of, you know how in different like places in the world you have different sounds for the same animal? Like in German, bow wow is vow vow or like
that
whatever. Do you think that's part of it?
Yeah, and a lot of languages pronounce their words at different areas of their mouth. So it could be that. It could be a combination. They just were not hitting the mark, according to Steve. So I laughed out loud hearing the isolated version of this guy who I've watched interviews of being like, "Hur, hur, hur."
Yeah, that is pretty crazy. Maybe they probably just didn't want to bark like he wanted them to, which is fair. I wouldn't want to either.
Show me the money first.
Yeah.
I will bark
once I have incentive to bark.
Yeah. I'm a dog. I'm no bitch.
Do we have an ISO of the guy barking?
We don't.
I'll plug it in later.
Okay, sweet. Thank you.
And I tried to get the Baja Men to like do the bark the way I wanted to do it. And they finally just said, okay, Mr. Smart Alec, you think you're such a good barker. Why don't you do it? So I said, okay, I will. And I went into the studio and I did the bark. And that's the bark we used.
So he does that. They tweak a few things, figure it out over the next couple days. And the last thing they had to do was figure out how to actually start the song. They played around with a lot of different options, and they finally landed on Marvin's "Who Let the Dogs Out" ringing at the beginning of it, and it was just
perfect
a cappella gold. Steve is really excited, and he's trying to negotiate a deal with London Records, which he was like an executive producer for at the time. He goes into the office in New York City with the mastered version, and the general manager of the label hated it. She violently hated it. She even went to the radio, turned it on to Z100. They listened to it for a minute. She's just looking at him. She turns it off and she's like, "Who Let the Dogs Out" does not belong on there.
I can see hating it. But
yes.
you have to admit, like, it's so catchy that it doesn't matter if you hate it.
Yeah. Tommy and I were discussing this earlier where it's like we have this bias now of how just what's the word I'm looking for? Famous this song is. That's not exactly the word that I'm looking for, but it's very popular.
Iconic.
Everyone knows it.
Established.
Iconic. Yes. Very established. So we have that bias of like, yeah, it's a great song. They were very successful, but if you just heard it without having it be famous and all that, you might be like, I don't know about this song.
I remember not really liking it as a kid, like feeling like it wasn't a real song. Like it sounds like something that was like made for like a commercial or something. Like,
Yeah, it does.
Like it doesn't sound like
it?
something you just listen to.
Yeah. I cannot agree more, but nonetheless, they clearly made it happen because a lot of people know this song.
Yeah.
So anyway, the general manager felt the same way. She's like, I hate it. Don't come back to me with any of this bullshit again. So for Steve, that created this fork in the road. He's like, okay, do I stick with London Records and scrap Who Let the Dogs Out? Or do I go with Who Let the Dogs Out and quit my job and just put all my faith in the Baha Men? So obviously he sticks with the Baha Men, and he never went back to London Records ever again. He decided to start his own label. At this point, everyone thinks Steve is crazy because now he essentially doesn't have a job. He's going full force with this song that has yet to become a worldwide sensation. His wife is worried that he's gone off the deep end. Everyone thinks that Steve has lost his mind. But Steve had a vision for this, and he was really set on it. He thought that it would be a sports anthem. So he reaches out to his friend Fred Trout, who was a music industry connection of Steve's. And Fred is widely regarded as being known as someone who makes things happen. I think he just knew a lot of people. He was very successful. So Steve calls Fred, and he's on this new venture. He was super excited about it, but he needed something to happen quick because he was quickly running out of money. He's like just burning capital trying to get Who Let the Dogs Out off the ground. He wanted Fred to find every person who picked the record for baseball games and essentially hound them until they agreed to play Who Let the Dogs Out during every break in the game.
That's smart. It is such a baseball game. I can't talk.
It's making her tear up. She's so touched.
It's just so perfect. Like it is such a like baseball walk-up song.
Yes, it really is. And that's exactly what happened. The first team to play it was the Yankees. So that's huge. When I think baseball, which I don't really think about baseball or know much about it, but I think Yankees.
Yeah.
And then the Mets, and it really took off in Seattle.
Oh, Mariners.
It actually became A-Rod's, specifically his walkout song. And by the end of that baseball season, 5 out of 18 baseball teams had Who Let the Dogs Out as their fight song. 5 out of 18.
You all cannot have it as your... It defeats the purpose of a fight song when you all have it.
But maybe it's just the fight song, like for everyone. For the, it's not the, is it the National Baseball League? NBA? What is it called?
MLB. Major League Baseball.
Major League Baseball.
It took me a second too.
There is a National Baseball League and an American Baseball League. Yeah.
Okay. Well, whatever the Mets and the Yankees play in, 5 out of 18 teams in that league.
Nice.
God, so many sports words. I'm done.
Yeah. Goodbye.
Can I just say, how cool is that the guy thought about that strategy and executed it?
It's a marketing brain.
That's great.
Absolutely. It's no wonder that he has founded and helped so many bands come together and become successful. And it worked for the Baha Men. The request for them to come perform at stadiums and sporting events was overwhelming, almost overnight. And the baseball men, the Baha Men were asked to perform at Game 4 of the World Series right before the first pitch. So not even like on a break. They were the opening show. And the Baha Men were like, we don't know shit about baseball, but we know it's important to Americans. So
I thought
we're going to do it.
Big and like...
No, in interviews,
Caribbean.
They were like, nah. I think
it's
it
big
is
in Latin
South
America.
Yeah. Not for them though.
Okay.
But they were like, hey, this is pretty good for us. We're gonna lean into it. So Who Let the Dogs Out was on the radio. It was ranked #1 on the very same radio station, Z100, that the London Records general manager said this does not belong on.
She was so
She's
pissed.
wrong.
To this day she can't listen to that song.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to.
It'd be like red sign, dollar signs in my head, just being like, oh no, I lost out big time.
And it's like you started out hating it and then now you hate it even more.
Yeah. I didn't think my hatred for this could be so strong.
Yeah.
So the Baha Men, they were touring all over, and Rugrats in Paris even used Who Let the Dogs Out in their movie, which they were stoked about. Nickelodeon started playing that song at 8 p.m. almost every night. instead of a commercial. They played
They
Who
just
Let the
played
Dogs
that
Out. The Baha Men became the first Bahamians to ever win a Grammy. Obviously a huge deal. And they made a lot of money. But remember Anselm
guy
Douglas?
who quit.
Not the guy who quit, the original writer and performer of the
Did
song.
they give him any money?
He made a lot of money
Okay,
on this
good.
deal, but he was jealous.
Yeah, I would be too.
He started a lawsuit, which really marshed the Bahamians mellow.
Why didn't they make him the singer when they were looking for a singer?
That's a great... Well, he was, I think, maybe not the look they were going for.
They wanted someone young, hot, and cool.
Exactly. That's
What did
what
he
Steve
look
was looking
like?
for. He's fine. I think he was a bit older. He was
Yeah.
probably in his like late 20s, early 30s. And these men are like 20, maybe the one on the right. I don't know them by name, but I just think maybe it wasn't the look.
Yeah.
Who knows?
And his version sounded real stiff.
Yeah.
They
They
probably
just
wanted
needed a
something
different-
more crazy and vivacious.
Yeah, different vibe. And are you really going to hire someone whose song is essentially the same thing, but you want to change it up a little bit to make it a hit? Like
Yeah,
if their song
no.
didn't catch off
It just
past
sucks.
the Caribbean.
I'd be jealous too.
Yeah, I totally get it. So he sued them, which was not fun for them, but it was fine. It was settled out of court for an undisclosed amount. Anselm claims that he had never heard anyone say "Who Let the Dogs Out" before his brother-in-law did, but does not deny that clearly someone must have been saying it, or maybe his brother-in-law just made it up. But then a bunch of people come out of the woodwork saying that they were the true authors and that Anselm stole the hook from them.
No, sorry, that's not how slang works.
They weren't wrong. Actually,
A bunch of people came up with it.
not that they came up with it, but it's been around.
Yeah.
The more they looked into the origin of the song, the more variations of the same song with the hook "Who Let the Dogs Out" with the bark afterwards came into the light.
Oh, weird.
For example, we have Rec Shop Radio jingle in 1995, "You're a Dog" by Gillette and 20 Fingers in 1994. "Who Let the Dogs Out" by The Two in 1992, "Pump Up the Party" by Hassan in 1987, and Benny Sisto found some VHS footage of a high school football game where the team chanted "Who Let the Dogs Out" with a bark after it from the 80s.
Whoa.
Wow.
It goes all the way back, and this remains one of the music industry's biggest mystery. No one knows where "Who Let the Dogs Out" came from.
I bet it came from a sports team that was called like the Bulldogs or something.
Probably, and it was perfect. A lot of teams who had dogs as their mascot adopted this as their fight
Yeah.
song naturally. And that's my lesson.
That was fun.
That is so cool.
And I'm
Loves
glad you
that.
enjoyed it. My sources, a lot of information, like I was telling you, Kat, came from this one source who covered it so well, called "The Story of Who Let the Dogs Out" by Baha Men on Vice. But I also learned more and confirmed that information from History of Carnival on sweetlifeyachting.com, the Wikipedia for "Who Let the Dogs Out," "Who Let the Dogs Out," the wild untold story behind music's most annoying song by Kevin Fallon on the Daily
Rude.
Beast, and "Whomst Among Us Let the Dogs Out" by 99 by 99% Invisible.
Well, thank you
Thank
for that
you.
lesson. That was really fun. That was an actually fun lesson, unlike mine.
That's right.
I
I tell the
appreciate it.
truth.
Yeah.
Can I just say, I was thinking when you were saying that you were like, I didn't like it as a kid. I was 10 at the time, and I remember feeling like, this is such a great song, and I feel like my parents don't really like it, but me as a 10-year-old, like, I love this and I get
Yeah.
it. And then hearing that it was on Nickelodeon, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
No wonder. Yeah,
Yeah.
they propaganded it. It's big time 10-year-old energy. My dad has this story of chaperoning my brother on a field trip when my brother was in second grade, and this girl on the bus sang "Who Let the Dogs Out" the whole way home. It was like an hour ride, and
Oh
the
my
best
God.
part of it, he was like, she couldn't even bark. She was going, "Hur,
Maybe it is hard to bark.
I'm pretty good at it, I think.
Do yours.
I did already. I guess it is kind of hard.
Yeah.
You gotta have strong lungs.
I'm worried I'm going to blow out the mic if I do it.
Try it.
Do it. Yeah,
That's
that was
pretty
good. That was great. That's what we need Georgia in here for. We need to get her
Yeah.
back.
She has a shrill bark.
That's the full
Yeah, we don't want
circle
that in our
moment right
ears.
there.
She needs more bass.
Yeah.
Georgia replaces the podcast to teach who lets the dogs out.
And all other dog related things.
Oh my gosh. Well, that was really fun. We're going to record our trivia night now. Very
Right.
excited.
Head
Can
over
I
to
add
Patreon.
one more note
Yeah.
before we close? I looked up the origin of Jeeves. You had done Ask Jeeves.
Yes.
It was a fictional valet or personal butler in a 20th century story by P.G. Wodehouse. And it became like he was the guy he worked for was really dumb, but he was this really elegant, sophisticated butler who was really the brains of the operation. So people started to call like good butlers Jeeves. And it was derived from Genevieve, which I thought was close to Genevieve,
Yeah.
and brought it full circle.
Wow.
Look at that.
Little mini lesson.
I know. We need
Thank
to
you,
make
Alec.
that a thing.
I added to the title.
Yeah. And Jeeves. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. Don't forget to check out Patreon because our list bitch for May will be up when this comes out, as well as hopefully our trivia. We'll see about that. Fingers crossed. If not now, then soon. And as always, thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for telling your friends and rating, reviewing, and subscribing. If you haven't done that, why haven't you? Please do it. We like it. We love it. And as always, thank you for listening. 3, 2, 1. We love you. Class dismissed. Sorry, I
Dismissed.
forgot to say we love you, and then I panicked. Okay, 3,
Love
2,
y'all.
1.
Bye.
Bye. Love you. Class dismissed.
Class dismissed.
Bye.
Nailed it.
So good.
In unison.